My husband is lazy. It doesn't matter what I try to offer him or convince him to please just give a little effort. He doesn't have a job. He sits on the couch 12 hours a day playing video games. It's ridiculous. He's way too old for this. Guys, this is only the beginning, and I seriously need your help. Let me tell you my story of how I'm married to a man-child. First of all, thank you to anybody who reads this. I made this account, but did not have the strength to post it the first time. I've had a hard time getting anything done these days. Some important information. I met my husband Ren at a tech symposium 2 years ago. We got into the relationship and moved in together rather quickly. It had been really lovely with Ren. We had a great relationship and we eventually married. We both had what considered elite, high-paying jobs that are very demanding here in Scotland. But no matter how well we do financially, I always just look for good deals, avoid profligate spending. I manage almost all the finances and I'm very careful with money. I don't even own a house. Instead, we've opted for renting, which I believe is both sufficient and cost-efficient. However, Rin is completely irresponsible. He grew up in a very poverty-stricken home. So when he gets a few dollars, he blows it on things for other people or buys random stuff. He can't save a penny. What's also important to know is that he's been working in his company for around 6 years, hated the job, and wanted to quit the last 5 or 6 months on a regular basis. We've had this discussion multiple times, and each time I told him I didn't want him to quit. He would tell me the job sucked and gave him anxiety, but I convinced him to stick it out while he looked for other work. For a bit of context, there have been many times I haven't liked my job, but I've stuck with it so that we could stay financially afloat. Soon, then, a younger woman became his boss. He sent an email to HR without informing me, saying that he was resigning. This was 4 days before my dad passed away in the hospital, and the entire month was a challenging period for me. Since then, I've consistently been the financial backbone of the relationship, and he's basically lived off of me. What I mean is I paid all the bills, paid for the meals, and even bought him a brand new car after he wrecked his hunk of junk. He assured me that he'd soon find a job, but he never made an effort. But the biggest issue was that he could not cook, clean, do anything while I was at work all day. He spent 12 hours a day playing video games and slept the rest of the time. I'm telling you, he's a couch potato. I, however, would get up, cook a nice meal, work an 8-hour shift, and come home to do the dishes in the sink. I always found trash on the table and laundry on the floor, and I've never seen him use a mop or broom. He didn't clean the bathroom, and he'd leave his hair in the sink after he shaved. He would do something that, if I asked 5 to 7 times, but I was beginning to get really sick of pulling all the weight. I've been hesitant to reach out to any of my family because I didn't want them to think poorly of him. I talked to him a few times and been pretty firm. One day, I left the dishes and went to sleep without washing because I thought that maybe, just maybe, he would do them. But they were still there for a week. At the last place that we were living, he hit a depression where he was constantly putting me down every single day, and in general treat me just horribly. He would blame me for bringing bad luck upon his life whenever a bad thing happened. I don't really believe in spiritual powers of any type, but he's the complete opposite. I thought that, Mel, wouldn't cause a major issue in our relationship, but he took it too far when I was already grieving about my father. Once his tone got angry and aggressive, I walked away to cool off, and he grabbed his car keys and left the house. Anyways, as you've guessed by this point, we don't like each other very much. Finally, a job post came up that was perfect for him, so I shared the link with him and kept asking if he applied, and he kept saying that he would, but it's been a week. I asked him if he would just go over the budget together with me. We looked at it and said he has a plan, but did not elaborate. So I get frustrated, I get angry, and he said the only things that we ever do are things I want to, and he doesn't have a place in our house. Following this, I went into a full-blown cheapskate mode. Anything I didn't need was cut off, anything I didn't use was sold, and anything extra I did not spend money on, well, this is my dream, and I needed to make this happen. So I stopped paying for any luxuries, and most of our meals consisted of burgers or ramen. He was getting sick of me at this point, and I told him straight up that if I kept spending how we used to, I'd run out of money within 2 to 3 months, and I told him that I could not afford anything super expensive, and if he continued to want that higher quality stuff, he'd have to get it himself. He now has began taking money out of my wallet to pay for his alcohol, and I confronted him and he tried to deny it, but when I told him that I wish that he had the balls to be honest with me, he admitted, finally, that he's taken the money. I asked him why he took it, and he said, I just saw money. Adrenaline, I guess. He spent it, but can only account for about $200 of it for alcohol, and said he can't remember what he spent the rest on. So I dug a bit further. Turns out he deposited the cash and has been subscribed to YouTube TV a month ago to watch a football game on a road trip and forgot about it. I was annoyed and made short comments. You should always set a reminder to cancel these things, honey. If you were responsible for checking your emails, this might not have happened. There's a history of him being irresponsible with bills and missing important emails. I'm in good shape. I'm fortunate that this would not have affected my budgeting for the month, but I hated the idea of waste. We weren't even utilizing the expensive subscription that he paid the money to watch one thing. I asked if he felt bad or guilty, and he simply said no. Then proceeded to tell me how badly I think of him in a sad tone because of what he did, almost like he was trying to get me to feel bad. Ugh, I know. I was able to submit a refund request as Google, their policy allowed the refund for the past month. And I know Ren should have been the one requesting the refund, but I asked him twice about it and he just shook his head like he was sure it was hopeless. So, I did it myself. I then reached out to his father and a couple of friends to ask for advice, and things got better for a bit, but soon he continued to steal money from me, so I had to lock up my wallet and hide it. Just writing it out makes me so mad. He now demanded allowance, stating that he's low maintenance, but in reality he splurges on alcohol, online gambling, and sports betting. His reasoning is that the practice of giving a spouse an allowance is a cultural thing in Japan. He was convincing me the entire week, and I've been postponing it for so long, but I decided to give him about 100 euros a week, on one condition, that he needs to change or else I would have no other option but to leave him. So, 2 weeks later, he's still the same. Now I'd started to believe I made a mistake marrying him. Being a Christian, I expected somebody to be a leader in our household and a good role model for our future children, but guys, he's the complete opposite. I filed for divorce and we continued to live together except for a few times when I'd stay with my friend for a week or two. During that time, I found out I was pregnant. When I woke up throwing up, I was like, no! I went to the drugstore. Positive. So I told Ren, who did not believe me at first, and I gave him a day and went to our house and took 2 more tests. Positive. To my shock, he seemed super happy about it. I was definitely not. I was in shock the entire time. But he expressed nothing but the utmost excitement about having a baby with me and being a father. One day, I got sick from pregnancy and I got a wave of nausea with severe abdominal pain. At that moment, I realized that I needed him. No matter how lazy he was, the pregnancy made me reconsider the divorce because as a pregnant woman, I would require a lot of support. This was not the right time for me to be alone, and this is not at all how I expected my pregnancy to go. Also, I want my future child to be with both their parents all the time. I don't want my child to be with a single parent just because we adults could not get along. I don't want to be together just because I'm having his baby, but I have to, due to the circumstances. Ren promised me that he would be by my side always. Well, like a sap, I believed him and told him I'd changed my mind and backed from the divorce. He did get a lowly job, but he never took care of me. No chance, again. I continued to do the housework all by myself and with my body aching all the time and exhausted while not sleeping well. I come home experiencing extreme fatigue and the house is a mess from him. I'm talking about dishes in the living room, open bags of chips, new toilet paper rolls on top of the empty one, clothes on the floor, bed unmade, food on the counter, you name it. When I talk to him about it, he just tells me my cat naps aren't that important, that my body is made for pregnancy so it shouldn't be this hard, and that he's sick of me interfering with his hobby. I know. I should not have believed him, but I wanted to give the marriage another chance. Stupid me. A few hours later, things did a complete 180, and when I ran into a large inheritance, I received a call from my mom who asked me to visit her the next day, along with Rin as my dad's lawyer was going to read his will. My dad left most of it for me and some parts of it for my mom. He didn't leave us cash, he left us properties, 4 in total, which are basically in ruins and needed a ton of work done. So my dad did not receive any income. He placed 2 of them for sale, but they never sold. So I had a plan to convert one of the spaces, a shop, into an artistic studio for painters or lease out the vintage space for photography, film shoots. Rin seemed supportive of my idea, and when we got back home, he started acting differently. He showed me a ton of support, started taking care of me through morning sickness, and went with me to doctor appointments, and went out of his way to show me love and tenderness. Well, naiveness, thought that he finally wanted a fresh start, and I was really happy that he became incredibly supportive. But soon, later, he told me that he would take care of the implications of the will and asked me to give him the legal authority to sort through my dad's affairs. When I laughed and said no, he suggested that the lease amount be put in our joint account, and that we'll both have access to it. I asked him, for what? My husband, for some reason, had the idea that he should be getting half of the value of the leased shop, as he needs to lease a house in Edinburgh. My intention is to use half of the money to help my unborn child in the future. I'm talking graduation, college, trips, their first car, you name it, and even have a small emergency fund. However, Rin argued that our child would need more space, and moving into a new home would be beneficial, especially in such a large city. Well, despite my refusal, he pushed even harder, asserting that this suggestion was in the best interest of our child, but he failed to grasp that it's just a suggestion, and he's been asking for updates on the legal process and how much longer it'll take. He had even asked me several times about an estimated amount, and I've given him very little to no information. When I was randomly browsing through Zoopla on my mobile phone, I came across a 3-bedroom, new-build home in Edinburgh, which had a nice spacious garden. I liked the house, and along with Ren, went over to the house the next day and we both loved it. He agreed that I would be the sole owner of the house because he would not be contributing to the mortgage, so I would be largely responsible for that, along with our other financial obligations. We've made appointments and purchased using the lease money I've received from an artist and the mortgage funds. During the paperwork, I registered it in my mother's name, as a method to avoid the house from being marital property, while pretending to Ren that it was going to be mine. The arrangement with the artist seemed to work well, so I did the same to a couple more properties. I deposited the lease amount, which was quite a huge amount, to our joint bank accounts, and Ren has been sending me links to YouTube shorts of adorable kid room decorations, wanting the same kind of special space for our baby. I had a lot of pending work at my office and could not find time to go shopping, so I went ahead and gave the job to him. He was obviously elated. However, I started noticing that though he was spending money, he was not really bringing anything home. So I asked him what's going on, and he replied, "Ugh, why do you always think the worst of me? I assure you that all the money I spend is invested in buying stuff for our kid." Well, where's the stuff then? Because I don't see any. Well, he lied, promising that it's on the way and would be delivered soon. Well, days go by. Nada, no sign of any kid-related goodies, and then, out of the blue, my phone lights up with a notification from PayPal. Your payment's on hold and undergoing review due to security measures. So guys, I immediately log in and just, see that there's a pending payment of €2,287, which I canceled, which was made to an electronics store. Fuming, I waited for him to get home. He had too much to drink and was arguing with his drug-addicted brother on the phone. Call done. I asked him what he wanted to buy with that huge amount of money, but he was furious with me instead as I canceled the transaction. Well, I demanded an explanation, but he retorted by saying that he was not answerable to me. Well, I was thinking that if I gave in now, this attitude will keep coming back, so I reminded him that it was my money that he was spending, but he said that it didn't matter if I inherited it. The inheritance is a family thing and belongs to all of us, so I have to use the lease money towards something we both want. I told him no, it's my inheritance, and I'll use it on what I want, and he can use whatever inheritance he gets on what he wants. He got mad and said that was ducked up to say, since I know that he'll get no inheritance and that he has equal rights to my dad's property since we're married. He said that if I continue to argue with him, he'll leave me and the baby and start looking for a new place. He expected me to be frightened, but I stopped him and told him, well, that's a fantastic idea. You need to be out by Thursday. He made it pretty easy. Now he's trying to say, how dare you? I needed to leave and move out because I'm unhappy or in love with you. I tried to make it work, but I want to just move on. Your lazy butt needs to go. And then he said, oh, don't talk to me like that in my house. I laughed and said, actually, it's my house since, my name's not on the deed. Huh? I told him he owed nothing, as I was renting from my mom and had no equity to give. Long story short, he freaked out to get her name off the house and put mine just to protect our home and child. But I told him I'm not changing my mind. He has until Thursday to leave. He starts screaming at my face and banging the frying pan on the bed again and again right next to me, throwing things near me, and I felt so scared. Not for my life, but for my baby's life. I had a feeling that if I moved an inch, he would have hit me in the head with the pan. I was scared and imagining the worst, and he's never been this hostile. I knew that the police had to be involved, so I called the non-emergency number and they arrived in about 30 minutes. They took me away from him and helped me. The officers who came classed it as domestic dispute, not domestic violence, and did not arrest him. They just forcefully kicked him out with a warning just to never come near me until the divorce is settled. When I saw him for the last time, I felt so bad that it's come to this. What could I have done differently? Did I do anything wrong? Any insight on this would be great. I can't handle any comments if you think I was wrong in my actions to involve the police, but I hope that whoever's reading can try to understand both perspectives. Update number 1. Oh, wow. I was not expecting so many responses. First of all, thank you to those who offered kind words and solid advice. As for the comment saying that it's good for Rin that he's, free from a financial abuser, prison warden, and that our home was a, quote, controlling hellhole. Don't you think that it's a bit much to glean from one post? I know this is the internet, but sheesh. Okay, on to the update. Since the police station, this situation, he's been saying duck you, calling me all sorts of names, calling me Jonah, and he's admitted to not respecting me and has called me every name in the book. He knows that language is a deal breaker for me and continues to do it. He blames our relationship for failing and potentially ending, not because he was violent, but because I, quote, called the police on him. Even though he suffered literally 0 consequences for it, he thinks that I was trying to ruin his life and involve the police out of malice. He keeps coming back with, well, I didn't hit you or threaten you, so you should never involve police. Although I had his phone number, I did not have his address, and we have basically been in a no-contact zone. I reached out to him, letting him know that I have divorce paperwork, and I need his address so I can serve him, or to give him a lawyer's info so I can have the papers delivered to him. He refused to give me any information, and I know where his mother lives. So my lawyer got the court's permission, and the divorce papers were served to her address. I'm just extremely grateful for this community, and I got in touch with one of the lawyers here. As I've anticipated, Ren did not take this well. He took 20 days to respond and loudly told me that he was not signing anything. Well, I told him he should speak to an attorney, and this made him very, very upset, and he firmly and strongly stated that he's not signing a damn thing. I told him we were over, like he said, and the services I've been paying for will be shut off soon unless he pays for them. When he realized the yelling would not work, he tried tears. He wanted to talk about everything, and I told him that we already did about 100 times. He kept crying and said that if we divorced with him fighting me on it, I'd get half of everything that he had. But if he signs the papers I gave him, I can just walk away and start over. I want to walk away and start over. Moving on feels like absolute garbage, and I'm figuring out what to do from here and little overwhelmed, but I know I made the right choice and will never go back to him. I have a lot of legal stuff to figure out that'll be a headache, but it's still a smaller headache than loving him was. I'm relieved to finally be doing this, and I'm so glad that it did not take long for him to reveal his true colors. I'm completely exhausted right now, and I have to visit my lawyer again tomorrow, so I have to get up super early. Anyways, I will keep you guys updated. Updates number 2. Thank you to those who gave me some great advice and support. You don't know me, and yet you reached out, and your words have literally dragged me through the last night. I'm going to read as many comments as I can, but I can't read them all. Either way, thank you. Rin signed the papers, and he's been calling and leaving messages at home. My cell phone, as well as the place where I work, asking if he could at least be with me when I go into labor. His mom, of course, agrees 100%. I've told them in no uncertain terms it will be allowed in or anywhere near my birthing room. I want people in there that I trust, and he isn't one of them. He's been guilt-tripping me by saying that he has a right to see his child be born, that our fight is separate from our child, and I agree, it is. But I don't want the added stress of him being there. For a multitude of reasons, being around him is a pain to me. My pregnancy is not considered high risk, but there have been a few complications so far, which he believes and occur because of my bad luck. Nothing too serious yet, thankfully, but still, I don't want to risk anything happening to the baby, so I'm doing everything I can to reduce stressors and danger. For instance, I've started working at home so I can rest as much as possible. So, I told him that if he tried to zero in on this again, I would be held against him in court. I sent him all the pictures and videos that the doctor gives me and keeps him updated on how the baby's doing at all times, but I don't want him physically with me. He's even welcome to the wait right outside to see the baby as soon as our baby's born, but when I'm pushing in active labor, I don't want to see him. He's been calling all his friends and family moping about how much of a fish I am, and they're supporting him. They all think that I'm totally the jerk, and are already alienating him from his kid. But that's not my intention. I want him to play an active role in our son or daughter's life, as I respect his right as a father. However, from my point of view, since the baby's still inside of me, and will be for some time, I still have the right to my own body, and that includes telling him that he can't touch me or be present for medical procedures. My mom called the other day, and we have not been speaking enough lately, because I've just been so busy. She called worried due to lack of speaking as much, and she originally had gone ape crap over everything that happened because she didn't realize how bad things were between us. At first, I cut her off too because I could not sit through the conversation, but eventually I found the strength to tell her the full extent of what happened for her to react the way that she did. I'll update you guys once it's over, which will be tomorrow. I just really hope I don't have a panic attack in the courtroom. I'm going to try to maintain as positive as I can in a situation like this. Update number 3. Hey guys, quick update here. Rin was so keen on having a reconciliation and persistently begged for it, so we halted the divorce proceedings to pursue it. I knew that it wouldn't work, but I wanted to see him make a sincere effort for once. During this, we worked out all the small dents in the paperwork and agreements. The clerk overseeing the meeting was growing weary of Ren, being unreasonable, snooty, and, well, a duck. And he was becoming more irrational with her demands, which I was attempting to meet rationally. As we were wrapping up, child support, unresolved, visitation, parental rights, all that, the clerk asked if there was anything else that we wanted to mention or add to the paperwork. Before the clerk had finished her sentence, he blurts out, "Yeah, techno equinox." Did you still think that you're an alien from like outer space or something? Dead silence. Guys, it ended up backfiring hardcore since everyone basically sided with me a little more. When we were leaving the room, he began to assert that I've brought bad luck upon him again and have been blaming me for all that's been happening to him and his family. First, he lost his job, and then the divorce headache, then his dog ran away, and a month ago he got a serious car accident that totaled his car and caused damage to his face. He's claiming that his leg was hurt too. His face used to have some good features. Sleepy, electric, blue eyes, a cute little nose, a baby face that makes him look younger than his actual age, and a pretty smile. Since his face got the most damage from the accident, one of his eyes is severely injured. His jaw's fractured and his front teeth are a mess. He repeatedly yelled at me, and I stayed completely calm because number one, there's CCTV outside the court. Two, this happened in front of roughly 20 police officers, so I knew he would not do anything more than yell. I asked him if you're convinced I'm bad luck, then how did you end up with the car accident after we separated? I told him you deserve everything, and I left. Today we're at the court. Needless to say, I'm requesting full custody and physical placement with him being allowed visitation only. It's now noon, and we're at a recess for lunch, but I'll be sure to update you guys when I get home. Update number 4. Hey guys, I got some good news. I won the case. From the get-go, everyone, courts included, called him out for being unreasonable. His lawyer friend Zachary, seemingly desperate, insisted that Ren was entitled to 50-50 split of the house, stating that it was acquired after our marriage, but I produced all the paperwork that showed my mother as the owner. Everything had my mother's name on everything from the mortgage documents to the title deed. It was clear that Ren had no legal claim to the property. However, he kept trying to argue with the judge that he had contributed significantly to the household and the mortgage payments during the marriage, which was a lie. He was sweating, attempting to damage my character, among other things, lying about my attempts to contact him, my financial situation, etc., even after being told that none of it mattered. After the 5th time, he interrupted the judge with his nonsense, and the judge mandated a division of the car, assets, and factored in CMS's recommendation that Ren must pay me full child support. After this, Ren started calling me names, right there in the court. I remained calm as a cucumber. The court charged him with misconduct, and he was ordered to pay a penalty as well. My lawyer held up his folder before his face to hide his grin during this exchange, and I walked out with all legal, full physical custody of my kid, and court-supervised visitation for Ren, and a full restraining order. He was so desperate to make me suffer that he filed a personal injury case against me 2 days later, stating that I intentionally bought him a car with mechanical defects to cause him harm. He claimed that his leg was fractured, but I was pretty sure that he didn't even hurt his leg. So, from my side, we had a doctor on stand as an expert. He's a well-known orthopedic surgeon in the area. So Zachary begins questioning the doctor about his experience with the leg injury. He asks if he's ever treated a tibia fracture, to which he only answers no. Then he starts grilling him with questions about the tibia. After about 6 to 7 questions, he asks this one. How did you get a medical license and have been able to practice medicine this long if you've never treated a tibia fracture? And begins a small rant about going after his credentials and those that gave them to him, to which he responds, that's because there's no bone named the tibia. Zachary became red as a beet, and everybody in the room tried their best to keep from laughing, including the judge. The judge then slammed Zachary's hand down, stood up, and leaned over the bench, and questioned his mental integrity and comprehension of the difference between a tibula and a tibia. He reminded him there's a lawyer rule not to ask a question you don't know about. It was the best day of my life. Ren withdrew the case and never saw me after that, and I have to thank all the people who took the time to comment on my post, and especially the folks who spoke to me for much longer through the chat. I love all you guys. Thank you for listening to the story. I think this is one of those stories where Ren gets everything he deserved in this story, and yeah, you could consider that karma, but I do want to know your thoughts on this story because it was pretty dramatic, and I want to know, say for instance you find yourself in OP's position, what exactly do you do if you're OP and you have to deal with this crazy, well, significant other? I want to know your thoughts about it, guys, so let me know what you think about Ren in the comment section down below. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories like this every single day. So if you want to be a part of these daily videos, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.